Everybody. It's This is Kabir. Actually, I want to talk to you about the soil health. And the once you're talking about the soil health, you need to also think about the soil itself. The why soil is so important because the 95% of the we are what we are growing or eating, everything actually on the soil. It's coming from the soil actually. So another thing is what is the soil health? Soil health is a vital living ecosystem that sustain, plants, animals, humans, everything actually. So, but we are losing our soil. The topsoil we lost about like more than 5 tons per acre per year, and but the soil formation is less than half a ton. So we are losing more soil than, forming the soil. So if you're looking at the global, um, map, including United States, the soil actually degraded a lot. In some areas, very degraded soil in our nation. So imagine Earth is an apple, and look at this thin skin of that apple is actually topsoil, and we are losing this soil. Why soil is important? Because all of the nutrients and vitamins we are receiving from the soil for the plant, for the animals, for us. So here is an example. This is example actually from North Dakota. In 1960, the topsoil was like 34 inches. But after 54 years later, that topsoil actually turned into 15 inches. So it's about 56% loss. From the same soil in 1960, the soil organic matter was 8%, but in after 54 years, is less than 3%. So it's stunting 62% loss. So let's looking at the, you know, like historical perspective. So this photo actually showing you the tall grass prairie or the prairie area in the center of our nation and also part of the Canada. So and it was a diverse, very productive ecosystems. But when you turn into agriculture, so what we do actually, we actually introducing the monoculture, little genetic diversity, and we are also replacing the natural, nutrients with the synthetic and also pesticide, all kind of things, and gradually losing our soil organic inputs. And soil health or the soil life is also much lower in this kind of situation. Then what happened? You see the soil organic matter we lost over the years more than 50%. If we are continue doing this kind of, modern agriculture with intensive agriculture, sorry, the tractors and other practices, then we are continuous to lose this soil organic matter and topsoil. So that actually creating a poor soil health. Once you have a poor soil health, you have water erosion because of the compaction. Like, in Arizona, you guys have a lot of like flash flooding kind of things. And it's taking all kind of soil, topsoil, and also any nutrients that are applying goes to the water body. And also wind erosion. Here in California, you guys have, and those are because of those losing our soil. So what we do, the soil that was giving the nutrients is not there and the chemicals is not there. Therefore, we are adding more fertilizer, we are adding pesticide and herbicide. And also we are tilling the soil a lot because soil is become compacted to loosen it. So once we are doing these kind of things, here is an example, just in 24 hours, researchers actually looking at the effects of above ground life, which is actually connected with the below ground, that is soil life. Like in 24 hours, here in Costa Rica, in a forest land, they actually counted everything they had and then found that 150 species of plants and animals in there. In South Africa, it's in 24 hours. Also, like in grassland, they measure everything and they found that 100 plants and animals in 24 hours. But in Iowa cornfield, uh, uh, they actually found only 8 plants and insects or animals, and most of them is actually pests. So, like, uh, imagine before this cultivation in Iowa, it was a prairie grassland, and just I said the most productive diverse ecosystem, and 150 species were there. Now we have all those only 8, insect pest and just a corn, and so and actually the disease or the pest was rarely occur in this prairie grassland. So once we change this, from like modern ag with all kind of chemicals and intensive ag practices, and also causing a lot of groundwater contamination. You can see all over the nations and part of the, all of those states. And also you see the waters running out from the field goes to the water body, and it also goes to the ocean. And they say the phosphorus plus to coastal ocean has nearly tripled in last 50 years. So this is only because of ag lands practices and phosphorus application. If you're looking at the global carbon stocks, atmosphere has around 800 billion tons, and vegetative they have 6. This one is kind of low. Currently it's about 600 billion tons. And in the soil, just topsoil, it shows that 1,417 billion tons. In the first meter of the soil, you have organic carbon. But if you are looking at the soil profile, we have about 4 times more organic carbon, in the soil than the atmosphere. Atmosphere 800 billion tons, but in the soil we have 2,400 billion tons. So, but our temperature is increasing every year. If you increase 2 degree Celsius, which is about 3.6 degree Fahrenheit, so we are losing a lot of insects, plant communities, and also other animals actually is going to disappear. But this is a simple things, how we can actually improve soil storage. Only way you can do it just growing plant, the CO2 is the problem, like in the atmosphere, but if it goes to the soil, it actually, good for the soil and us, and all the anything's growing in the soil, that is soil health. So I think in Paris climate agreements, they said, and I think 50 kind of countries decided to increase soil carbon by 0.4% each year. And if we are doing these things and all over the nations or all over the world, if we are doing just for 0.4% annual increase of carbon in the soil, the global carbon emission will reduce significantly. So how we can do it? Using just simple soil health principles. So like minimize disturbance, maximize soil cover, maximize biodiversity, and maximize continuous living roots. So here is like a conventional tillage practices, tilling the soil. You can do alternatively no-till system or strip tillage system. So here is an example. So you can see uh, um, if you are adding residue, like in no-till and strip tillage systems, you have residues, and it also helps for the earthworm to grow better, because residues and living cover crops, any other things, growing in the soil, actually giving food for the soil habitat. So earthworm is one of the habitats in there. In the y-axis, you can see the cumulative infiltration of water in 3 hours. And you can see here like no earthworm, the smaller bar, and 15 earthworm and 30 earthworm. I'm just going to talk about the 30 earthworm. And you see when in the y-axis, x-axis, you have no residues. So infiltration is much lower. However, when you have the 30 earthworm in the residue, the soybean residues in there, so their infiltration is like 4 times higher, or more than 3 times higher. Another way to improve the soil health, that is growing cover crop off season, when they are not growing any crops. But also one important thing is that cover crop has a different CN ratio, a carbon nitrogen ratio. If you have a terminating cover crops, let's say late at the maturity, so its decomposition will be much lower. Here you see in the middle, the ideal microbial diet is 24 carbon to 1 nitrogen. So it shows that, below that one, it's much faster decomposition, and maybe nitrogen can release more. But above that ideal biomass microbial diet area, you can see the carbon nitrogen ratio is much higher. So slower decomposition. For example, rye straw, it's about 82 to 1 carbon nitrogen ratio. But once rye cover crops at emphasis level, those are 37 to 1. And however, rye cover crop at vegetative stage is about 26 to 1. So this is the best time to terminate cover crop to get the most benefit out of it. Another carbon amendments, or also another practice to improve the soil health, those are biochar, maybe mulching. Mulching also reduce weed populations. biochar does the same thing, and also composting. Composting also to giving nutrients and at the same time protect the soil and improve all the soil habitats, biology, and the soil. All these three carbon amendments actually helping, you know, for soil health and soil habitats in the soil. Another principle is the maximize biodiversity. So this one is in a small producer in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's growing in I think 1.5 acres of land and is actually making profitable by growing diverse crops and minimize tillages at the same time and also, you know, very efficient irrigation water management and nutrient management. Here's one of the examples here in California shows that, if you're doing in the left bar conventional way to grow crops, we are losing actually soil organic carbon. But if you have cover crops and we're adding compost, actually we are adding more carbon into the soil. So these are the practice that improve ecosystem resiliency. That is part of the soil health principles, and NRCS also providing technical um, and also financial assistance like crop rotation, relay cropping, forage and biomass planting, perennial crops, cover crops, and so these are the all practice is kind of related to four soil health principles. So the prairie grasslands that we had, maybe 50 to about 60 years ago. So can we go back to that, position? I think we can. Here's an example shows that we lost actually 50% or more, actually 70% in some places. But if you're doing just no-till system, just not tilling and keeping the residue in there, at least we can sustain the same soil organic carbon level. And if you're adding no-till plus cover crop, so the soil organic matter and the topsoil, of course, increasing. And if you're adding no-till and other technology, diverse crop rotation, precision agriculture, and nutrient management, and irrigation water management, that we actually can go back to prairie levels. Here's some of the examples I'm just going to show you. It's not from Arizona. In the left side, you probably see much greener corn. So after a heavy rainfall event, in the right side, you see this patchy yellow and light yellows that is showing that nutrient deficiency system in the cornfield. And the left side has no-till, cover crops, and high soil organic matter. And in the right side one is the conventional tillage and no cover crops and low soil organic matter. So this one is demonstrating the following the soil health principle. Another producer in the dryland cropping system in North Dakota, and he actually lost weight and lost before doing some, soil health principle, is to grow just single crop, and he lost crops because of the dryland area. Since he started to do soil health practices like minimum tillage, no tillage, and diverse crop rotation, and also, you know, some other practices, I think Yeah, so he actually increased the soil organic matter. In 1990 was 0.9%, and 2016 was 5% soil organic matter. And his baseline nitrogen uh, fertilizer actually was reduced 50 pounds per acre. And his weed pressure is low uh, because of the residues, cover crops, and that's also reduced herbicide application. So here is another in the Central Valley of California. It's a very dry area. So here's a producer, uh, the Sano Farm. In 2001, actually, they started to do cover crops and minimum tillage. And but in 2016, soil organic matter actually 3%. So they are growing like processing tomatoes. And in 2001, they put like 240 nitrogens, like pounds nitrogens per acre. But in 2016, because of the cover crops and minimum tillage, so actually reduced 50%, fertilizer application. And the quality of, when I talked to the producers, they said the quality of their processing tomato was so good that, the company like Morningstar, they actually wanted to buy their compared to other conventional producers. And another thing is that they're applying actually one-third less irrigation water because the soil organic matter can kind of sponge, like it can capture more water during the, you know, winter time here in California. One of the producer here, the Scott Park, is a organic producer. Is a not a small producer. Like he has 1,700 acres of land, growing 20 types of crop, vegetables, or rice. And here, it's been doing this organic practices more than 20 years. And his input is in this kind of practices is just cover crops, less water, and composting like in 3 to 4 years. Um, but here is the California state average. You see the processing tomatoes 20 tons per acre, but Scott Park Hill is 65 tons per acre. And California state average, and they're talking about inputs, fertilizer, pesticide, herbicides, and tillage, etc. Another thing is that, water cutoff, before harvesting. So he actually cut off water about 45 days before harvest. And conventional producer cut off like 12 days before harvesting processing tomatoes. So in this kind of, like in his field, he can capture more water and, reducing the irrigation water. So fertilizer diet, like here you can see adding macronutrients a lot, that nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and micronutrients, because plant needs, 17 essential nutrients, right? So in micronutrients is pretty low. So the balance of the nutrients in fertilizer diet is much lower. And if you're looking at the soil life, sometimes you see no soil life at all or very, very little soil life. But soil life diet or soil health diet, would be less macronutrients, NPK, but this can be compensated with cover crop, compost, mulch, any residues, or even some slow release fertilizer. And it is full of micronutrients because soil is healthy. Soil actually can support micronutrients to the plant and also full of soil life. Thank you. So if you have any questions, I think.
Thank you very much, Kabir. That was an impressive presentation. There are a lot of questions in the chat. I'll let Stacy take over that so that we go through the questions and see how we can handle them. Stacy, are you available to take us through the Q&A?
I am for the moment. I'm taking a look at the chat.
All right.
Okay, should I say stop sharing or what? Or maybe just still keep sharing, right?
Yeah, you can just keep it on like this.
Yeah, that's a pretty cute monkey. I think you should leave it there. So Norella is asking if it's possible to share the slides because there's some wonderful information and great graphics here.
Okay, yeah, I can send you. I want to send you a PDF format, you know.
Great.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
And Cynthia is asking, rye being is it allopathic? Does it have any negative effects, the rye?
Allelopathic?
Yeah, rye has I heard like it has some allelopathic effects in certain crop. I do not know much about it, but I know Sudan grass does also some allelopathic effects.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I'll share some information on that with you. Yes, like Kiba said, some of the crops they've reported that rye has this allelopathic effect, and that is why it's more effective in controlling most of the weeds also. But there's also argument that the effect on the do it sometimes recorded to reduce yield in like corn and then some other crops. The effects are not so much the benefit of controlling the weeds and other benefits you get from it actually outweighs the effect that it has on the crop. In some cases, they don't see the allelopathic effects as well. Yeah, so it varies. The result varies from crop to crop and from situations as well. But in corn, they recommend that if you plant the corn like 10 to 14 days after terminating the rye, you may have the chance to avoid that allelopathic effect on the corn. Yeah, so I'll share some PDF files, some fact sheets on it so that you can have more details on it. Yeah.
And I put in the chat that I do need to step away for one moment, but I also did have a question about whether in the desert with water being an issue, what are the best cover crops?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, like here we have also like, you know, southern part of California is similar weather like you guys have. And most of the times, you know, like cover crops, there's a lot of cover crops, you know, I don't know whether you have the database or something. There are some cover crops is taking very less water. I think I have a calendar. I can actually send it to you if you guys want. It shows that, you know, like certain cover crops is taking less water. Certain cover crops actually taking more water. So there's I think USDA ARS actually created a, you know, calendar. So it has all the information. So you can actually choose and pick, you know, from those calendar.
That's right. Kiba, thank you on that. So mostly when you pick the cover crops that are moved from the like the dry regions or like the native crops, you stand a chance of using less water because of their origin. Something like tape grass, like the millets and these other ones, be able to, they require less water, so you can choose those ones. And also leguminous crops that are also from the dry regions also kind of require less water. So if you're able to identify some of those, yeah, that calendar would be very helpful. I can share with you once Kiba shares, we can have more details on some of those.
Yeah, I'll share with you. I don't know, I have it here, but you know,
Oh, okay.
So it is there, like, you know, they're talking about certain cover crops, you know, like cowpea, and like beans, cluster beans, sunham. I'm talking about also leguminous crops. Those are taking a very little amount of water. Chickpeas, I mean, even, they're talking about that one. Some of the grasses also like pearl millet, as you mentioned, is that foxtail millets.
Mhm.
These are actually taking very low amount of water. Annual fescue is the another grass, also taking less water. Lentil is another one. I don't know whether you
Oh,
know
lentil.
lentil or not.
Okay. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
the field day that we're going to have, I have all those leguminous crops in the field. So those of you who will be able to attend the field day on the 28th and 9th, you'll be able to see all those crops there. Those crops that Kibal mentioned, they are all in the field right now. They actually germinated nicely. And hopefully, yeah, we are not able to track the watering amount because of logistics. So hopefully with time, we'll be able to do some data collection with regards to their water usage in our location as well sometime to be able to compare that as well. But for now, we just want to see the different leguminous crops and then the mixture of different cover crops, how they perform in our location, so we can make recommendation in terms of questions like this. We'll have like specific data where we can refer the producers to make some choices. Yeah. So don't miss the field day. All right.
All right, there is another question from Cheryl and Daryl. You mentioned that NCRS provides technical and financial help to farmers. Is there a requirement of how long that they have farmed on a specific piece of land, specifically here in Arizona, before they can qualify for help?
Actually, it would be better for you guys to contact the local NRCS office, and they will give you more information about, like the financial assistance. But they're currently, they're providing financial assistance. If someone has like 1 year or something of farming, they can get, uh, financial assistance. And if someone is like, underserved, the populations are historically underserved, and also then they are getting even much more financial assistance, like, 80% to 100%, I guess. But I'm not, I'm actually technical side. So it will be better for you guys to go to individual, the local county NRCS office.
Yeah. So with that, yeah. So if you need any information on the NRCS counties, the NRCDs, we actually have one in Prescott Valley. We have one in also in Camp Verde that takes care of the one in Flagstaff actually is together with the Camp Verde. So if you need some more information on that, you can reach out and then I'll connect you to the right place that you can contact them for more information. So they have like equip program where they also, if you are doing cover crops or if your land is prone to like erosion or you are doing some pollinator habitats and things like that, they also have some equip program that you can enroll to. Once you are qualified, they'll come and assess your land, and if you are qualified, they will enroll you on that. And also actually high tunnels as well. If you are using high tunnels as a small scale producer, they also have funds for that. So if you need any help, you can contact me. I'll direct you to the right NRCD that you should contact. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. There's also a comment from Cooper, who has a question about a recommendation for restoring proper soil health after a greenhouse was kept too wet and humid this spring. The soil became very muddy with a lot of unwanted pests.
Maybe I should take this one.
Okay, yeah, Isaac, you'll be more specific about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, I spoke to Cooper about this specific incidents before. Yeah, so once you get your soil too wet, you are making the soil more vulnerable to soil-borne diseases and things like that. So the best thing you can do is that you have to allow your soil to dry back, and then you have to make sure that you don't overwater your fields, and also use good organic amendment like compost or manure to amend it, and just make sure that you don't overwater. Also, you can open if it is a high tunnel, you can open the site to allow more air in, so that once you get more air in, you can get that aeration going. If you have to check the slope of your field too, if there's if there's a way that you can make the field such that the water, if it is too wet, it can drain to one side and leave the other side much not too wet. That is also easier way to have like your field drain nicely. So if it is too flat, you may want to level in such a way that if in case a mistake and you forget the water and it's too wet, to be able to drain and then just not sit at one place in your greenhouse or high tunnel like that. So those are some of the few things you want to do to avoid some of those incidents. Yeah. Cooper, I'm not sure if you're okay with that. You can call me for more discussions if you need some more details, okay?
Jeff has added a comment about NCRS having many programs, and that they usually require a conservation plan to be developed for their assistance. And Tim is asking about soil specifically in Yavapai County. What crops would be conducive to beekeeping dependent upon the soil that we have in Yavapai County?
Maybe we should. Jeff is here. We are lucky Jeff is here. So Jeff, if you can unmute yourself and help us with this, that would be awesome.
I'm here, Isaac.
Okay, nice to have you.
Well, thank you. You know, it really depends on where you live in Yavapai County. There's many different kinds of soils. If, you know, around Sedona, there's kind of fine sand. You get around basalt, which is House Mountain in the central part of the Verde Valley, and up in Flagstaff, but also over by Prescott Valley, there's a lot of basalt, and that's going to give you a clay soil. And then a lot of places have alluvium that are kind of combinations of all of those. So you really need to have a specific location. And I think the soil texture is probably the primary thing to be looking at. And, you know, there's ways to determine that on your own. And so, but I think, you know, coming to the field days and things like that should help you get some ideas. Really, you know, it really, well, I think you can get a lot of different things to grow on the same soil. It's just how and when you plant it and how much moisture you're going to get and those kinds of things. But for beekeeping, you're going to want, of course, flowering types of plants and nectar producing plants. And there's lots of other beekeepers around that are actually creating their own apiaries where a lot of this stuff is growing. So networking with people in the beekeeping world should be helpful too. So first you need to determine the texture of your soil. And it's never bad to just do a soil test as well for fertility. But once you do that, you can decide on a suite of plants that might be most suited to your area. And in my experience, a broad range of plants will grow on an area. It just really depends on if you're able to apply some irrigation at certain times and a lot of other things like that. So I'll stop there, Isaac.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so once you know the pH of your soil, you may be able to get information on the specific crops that someone recommends to you to see if they fit within that pH range or not. And with the pH range too, once you start using organic amendments, with time, you'll be able to manage your pH. I know we have like crazy pH ranges. That is sometimes troublesome, but once we continually use the organic amendments and try to improve the soil health, as Kiba mentioned, with time we'll be able to have control over that. There's a comment here that I want to say that Nancy said she has been using letting native grasses and wildflowers grow between the rows in her vineyard, and it works for her. So she doesn't know what the nutritional value of those crops are, but they reseed and attract pollinators and then shade the soil, which is nice. Thank you, Nancy, for that contribution right there. The next one is by, okay, that we mentioned already. I am back. Okay.
Here's a question from Cynthia. Do you have any suggestions on running animals off season? I guess the off crop, not the planting season, for natural manuring, hot versus cool manures. Does it make a difference?
Cynthia, can you unmute yourself and make the question much clearer so that we can respond appropriately? I'm not sure if I'm very clear. Kabir, are you clear with what she's asking?
I don't know. Are you talking about like grazing cover crops or grazing something like that?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
referring.
yeah. This is one of the principles we have, like, you know, diversity. As you know, I was showing off the pictures. I don't know. Let me go back to that one.
So once Kabir is looking at that, so silvopasture is one of the options.
Oh, right here.
Okay.
This producer, you know, the Scott Park, actually he has like 3,000, you know, goats. So what he does actually, he's actually grazing his cover crop, even when the soil is wet, you know, that they can graze and then, you know, clean up all those things. At the same time, you know, they're also putting some, you know, manure in there, or, you know, to also helping to increase the nutrient content of the field, you know. So, yeah, it's
I think that's exactly what she was asking.
yeah.
That's right on spot. I think that's what she was asking. Yeah, so instead of using machines or some other means to terminate the cover crop, you can, if you have some animal, you can let them feed on it and then reduce. Maybe they are too much to reduce, and then that will make the management easier. Once they are feeding, they also defecate with the manure, the fresh manure on that. But one thing we have to be careful with that though is that we have to be careful with the food safety issues, because the fresh manure could lead to E. coli and salmonella outbreaks. So we have to follow this food safety, which is 108 20 days from when you allow the animal to feed on, putting fresh manure there before you can harvest your crop. So we should allow more time before harvesting so we don't end up contaminating the food. The most recommended option will be to, if you have it organized, compost it before using it. But if you don't have that luxury, then we have to allow the 120 days if it is vegetables, and then the 90 days if it's like cereals, before we harvest from the day of application of the manure. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, that recently, I just want to add this one, Isaac, with you. Quite recently, University of California, Davis, they actually published a paper on, you know, in organic system compared to the conventional the systems. And they found actually more E. coli and salmonella actually more in the conventional system compared to the, you know, organic system. So yeah, if you want, I can actually send out this, you know, paper to you.
That'll be interesting. Do they give some reasons why they find like more salmonella in the conventional system than the
system is, you know, they are talking about, like, you know, soil life is much more in the organic system, right? So it is like ecosystem is balancing, you know, bad bugs, good bugs actually try to eat the bad bugs to balance it out. But in conventional system, there is no living, you know, there is no life. or soil lives. You are putting all the chemicals in there. So there's a good chance those, bad bugs, or bad, pests or diseases, they can actually quickly, uh, multiply or exponentially multiply actually in there. So I'll send you the paper, I have it here. Just recently they published it.
That would be great. Once you share it, I'll share it with the group as well. I
Yeah.
just launched the post, so please that takes some time to go through the post and then fill them out. It helps us to modify some things with time so that our presentations are more better and targeted to what we need to be presenting. Yeah, so like Kiba was saying, once the ecosystem is more robust and you have more microbial activities going on, because you are using more organic amendment and in the organic system, and also with the cover crops, the different biodiversity is exudating more, exudate like organic acid, and those are the things that attract and are carbon sources for the microbial activities to depend on. So the organic systems reports says that they tend to have more microbial diversity, and that helps to keep the bad bugs away, reduce the disease pressure, kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
Isaac, I have a clarifying question in the poll. The first question is asking about knowledge gained on hydroponics and aquaponics. I think that's from a previous presentation.
I'm sorry.
No, I think you can just clarify that it's for today's topic.
It's for soil health. Please, sorry. Stacy, thank you.
No worries.
Oh my goodness, what happened? I think I launched the wrong poll probably. Let me see, how many questions are there? Yeah, I think I launched the wrong poll.
If you want to end it and relaunch.
Yeah, I want to end it and launch the another one. Sorry about that. Let me see. Go back to the poll. Why is this particular one keep on? Oh, right there. Yeah, so this is a poll that this is the right poll. Sorry about the I launched the wrong one. This is the right poll. Stacy, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, and sorry to everyone for making you work twice. All right, maybe you can go with the questions and see if there are some more questions. Stacy, are there more questions for us to talk about?
One just came in. Maybe it's a comment. Oh, it is a question also. Mulching is key to conserving soil moisture to keep biota active. What kind of mulch best suits our alkaline desert soils?
I think, most of the mulch, residues actually would be good. Any kind of grass kind of, mulch would be better. Or even, leguminous or, kind of things would be better too. But, I don't know about maybe Isaac could be better on that,
Yeah, so the
specific questions. Yeah.
The mulch, it's all depend on the how much, like the first graph Kiban showed indicating the CN ratio. I think once you are getting it before the flowering, you don't allow the cover crops to flower, and you terminate it. It doesn't matter which type of crop is. It depends on your objective. If your objective is to fix more nitrogen and you are using leguminous crop, don't allow it to flower. Just terminate it before the flower. And also with the other cereals too, similar. If your objective is to catch, you have more nutrient and you just want to hold the nutrient, so you put in other cover crops, which is like maybe the cereals, just terminate it before the flower, so you don't have the CN ratio being high. You stay within that 24:1 ratio. So you'll be able to have more N, and decomposition will not be too much, and also other things like that. But if your objective is actually to have like take cover with time, once you keep on terminating and leaving the residue on the surface of the soil, you have like more cover on your soil surface that will conserve more moisture for you. And once they also break down, they also add to the organic matter of your soil and increasing that top layer of your soil, making it more rich and healthy. Yeah.
So the question, I don't know, is it a alkaline kind of soil you are talking about?
Yes, that was stated in the question.
Yeah, so in this case, mulch, like any pines or, evergreen kind of mulch should be better because it has pH is low, much lower. So it may help to balance the pH of the soil.
Yeah, in most cases, the mulch may not be able to affect the pH that much unless you do it for a very long time. Yeah, so once you start with the mulching, you shouldn't expect your pH to be drastically reduced. It's going to take some time for that to happen. Yeah,
That's
so
true.
keep that in mind. Yeah, please, the right poll is now launched, so please.
I'm just seeing some thank yous. Excellent presentation with great information.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm always listening. You guys are really doing, exceptional job on doing this colloquium. I really appreciate, you guys invited me, and I
Thank
enjoy
you very much.
every presentation of yours.
Yeah, there's one thing we have to know is that Kiba is always participating in all our colloquiums. So he's actually very familiar with all the topics we treated before. And also, so we are really pleased that he is with us. And he's like I said in the email, that's why I didn't introduce him any much more. So we have more time for discussion. He's the soil health specialist for NRCS for California, Arizona, Nevada, and Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
Pacific Island areas. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we are very grateful and we are honored to have you participate in our colloquium, and we really appreciate your support to us, small scale farmers. It's not everyone who really supports small scale farmers, but we are honored that you, the regional soil health specialist, you are with us and you are supporting us, and we really appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Okay. I think the polls are coming in. Yeah. Is there any other thing that anyone has? You can unmute yourself and ask any question if you want to. We still have some few minutes, 3 minutes to end the session. I actually was supposed to discuss site selection before we start, but I thought of holding it so that when we go for the field day on the 28th and 9th, I can use that as an intro site selection, and then we jump into the other topics as well. Yeah, so we will talk about site selection because for us in Arizona, it's very dry, and when we are trying to start like a farm, we may have to think about so many other things before we start, and even how can we improve our soils? All those things may be factors that we have to think about, water and all this other stuff before. Yeah, so I'll try to integrate that into the field day so we can talk more, we can have more time to discuss all those other things. That's why I just let off this day for Kiba to be able to have more with us. Yeah. Good. Jeff, is there anything that you want to share with us? We are honored to have you as well to join us today. So if there's anything you want to share with us, you are welcome to do so before we go.
Isaac, I appreciate that. And, I'm just watching the chat box too, and I see Lisa Kahn's on here, and there was a question about altering the pH on like a pasture or, someplace where you're going to plant grass crops. And really, I think what you need to do is just understand what pH you have, and then adjust your expectations accordingly. And longer there's a crop, the longer a crop is growing there, the more likely the biological activity is to increase. But I wouldn't think about trying to change the pH of a huge area. So I think that some people on the call are thinking that. And a small plot is one thing, but a huge plot, basically, I think you just need to plant something that's suitable for an alkaline soil, because I think most of the people that are asking the questions about the pH are on alkaline soils.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. One other thing that I did recently was the Grape Format. It's actually very acidic material. It has a pH of 3.9, actually. Yeah, but that can be used. But one thing we have to know is that it has to be processed before you can use it, because it's basically seeds. So if you cannot break the seeds down, like maybe pallet it or grind it into fine particles to destroy the seed from germinating, you put it in your field, the seeds may end up germinating. You have like a forest of vineyards where you don't want it to be. Yeah, so though it's proving to be potential material that we can use sometime, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done for us to authenticate, for us to fully recommend it for usage in the field. We've not been able to do any field work yet. It's just pot experiment that I've done so far. Yeah, so thank you to everyone. We are on the clock now, and we really appreciate everyone for coming today. And don't forget to go and register for the field day. We have 34 people registered, and I want us to be 50 people. So once it's 50, I'm going to close it, and I don't want you to miss out. Those of you on the small scale farmers colloquium, I want everyone to have the chance there. So be there before the 50, before I close, and then you'll be like, okay, I wanted to be there, but it's not going to be recorded. That's another thing. So it's not going to be recorded.
If you have the link handy for the registration, can you drop that in the chat?
I'm working on that, Stacy.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, awesome. I have great people that are supporting me, so I'm not lost. Okay, let me see. I think I can get to it. Actually, it's here. Okay, I think, Jeff, I got it. So
I posted the link to your commercial horticulture small acreage page in the chat as well, Isaac.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Sure.
I'm not seeing it, Jeff.
Okay.
It just
I forgot to. There we go. Double coverage here. But Isaac gave the right one. The specific one. Isaac, nice job today, and very nice to hear from Kabir too. And so I always learn a lot from these. So thank you, you guys.
Yeah, we are honored to have you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kabir, I'll try to give you a call one of these days. I'm still working on the stuff, so I'll give you a call, and then maybe I'll send you the stuff for you to be able to go.
Okay. Yeah, actually.